G'day everyone, Rune here, and this is the first chapter of a new what if based on an anime that was my childhood. Pokemon. Now, Pokemon, more specifically what I call the Ash Saga, is long. 22 seasons and counting long. So yeah, this is gonna be a long one. Probably longer than any other what if I do on this channel. And as much as I wish the Ash Saga had ended with the Orange Islands and every generation after got its own protagonist, I'm keeping the saga whole, much to my pain. In this what if, we will be exploring the idea of Ash and Meowth from Team Rocket meeting a lot earlier than in the canon story. What if Ash had met Meowth first? We start this story before the start of the anime, on the day that inspired Ash to become a trainer when he wandered into the nearby woods to look for wild Pokemon. When it starts to storm and Ash begins to help wild Pokemon into the shelter of a hollow tree, among these Pokemon is a Meowth, who is hungry and tired and hurt. When the rain stops and Ash is able to return home, he takes the hurt Meowth with him. Once he's there, he begins to nurse the Meowth back to health, and is shocked to discover that it has the ability to talk. Meowth explains that he'd been on his way to join up with the group called Team Rocket, but had gotten lost along the way. Ash, being a little kid, doesn't know what Team Rocket is and apologizes that he can't help Meowth in that department. He does say, however, that the Meowth is free to stay for as long as it wants, or at least until its wounds are healed. Meowth ends up staying with the Ketchums for a lot longer than he'd intended, growing rather fond of the little boy that had saved him, especially after Ash stands up to Gary after he called Meowth a freak. When Ash expresses his desire to become a Pokemon Master, Meowth offers to help him practice. After all, who better than a Pokemon? Thanks to this, Ash doesn't start his journey completely clueless, and has a solid grasp on the basics, i.e. type matchups, how to catch Pokemon, and how to find berries, and some beginner strategy. Skipping to the night before Ash is set to start his Pokemon journey, instead of him staying up to watch a Pokemon battle on TV, he's instead staying up late to go over his packing, trying to ensure that he has everything he'll need for the road. He is interrupted by Meowth and his mum coming into his room and reminding him of how late it is. When Dahlia leaves to let her son get ready for bed, Meowth sticks around to talk to Ash while he gets changed. He remarks that while Ash may already have a partner in him, Ash does still need to stop at Professor Oak's in order to pick up a Pokedex and some Pokeballs. Sighing and shaking his head, Ash states that he knows this before climbing into bed, with Meowth making himself comfortable on the sheets at the foot of it. With Meowth playfully calling Ash Brat, and Ash playfully calling him Chatterbox, they bid each other good night and fall asleep. The next morning, Ash does still oversleep, but not by as much, as Meowth is there to wake him up. He's also not in the rush to get to the lab, as he's already got Meowth, so there's no worry over not getting a Pokemon. So he's able to properly get dressed and take a leisurely stroll to the lab, rather than an all-out run. Once they get there, they're just in time to run into Gary before he heads off on his own journey. Spotting the two, Gary begins to taunt Ash over him oversleeping and that he already has a Pokemon, to which Ash counters with a smart remark about how he had his partner with him for years, so if anything, Gary's the one that needs to catch up. This infuriates Gary, who insults Meowth, calling him a freak of a Pokemon and nothing more than a cast-out stray. Just as Ash is about to throw hands over Gary insulting his friend, Meowth tells Ash that Gary isn't worth wasting their breath and they need to talk to Professor Oak about getting a Pokedex. Throwing one final glare at Gary, Ash pushes past him and begins to ascend the stairs, all the while telling Meowth that he should have just let him deck him. Once they arrive, Oak greets them warmly and Ash asks about getting a Pokedex for his journey. Oak says that he's not surprised that Ash and Meowth have chosen to travel together, and he is pleased that the young boy will have such a capable friend in his corner. He gives Ash his Pokedex and some Pokeballs, but before the duo can leave, he says that he actually has a favor to ask. He explains to Ash that he got a Pokemon that he's having difficulty with. It's very disobedient, and Oak is having trouble finding someone to take care of it. With how Meowth can talk and thus translate what Pokemon are saying, he was hoping that and Ash would be able to take this Pokemon with him and help it train a bit. Ash talks this over with Meowth for a bit, and they both agree to do this as a favor to the professor. Oak brings out the Pokemon, revealing it to be a Pikachu. Ash kneels down, introducing himself, while Meowth does the same. When Oak gives Pikachu's ball to Ash, the 10-year-old asks Pikachu if he wants to get in the Pokeball or would rather stay out. When Meowth translates the answer, Ash crouches down to allow Pikachu to climb on his back, which it hesitantly does. After a quick trip home to tell his mom goodbye and introduce her to his new friend, Ash and his team make their way to the first route. Not far from Pallet Town, the trio run into a Pidgey, and Ash quickly checks it with his Pokedex before telling Meowth to attack it, in hopes of catching it. To his disappointment, however, Meowth completely knocks the low-level bird out. Sweat dropping, Meowth apologizes to Ash, explaining that after living in Pallet Town for so long, he'd completely forgotten the level gap. Ash assures him that it's fine and asks Pikachu if he would like to take the next one. The next one ends up being a Spearow, which had heard the commotion and come to investigate. Upon seeing the two Pokemon and their trainer, the Spearow gets really angry and jealous, attacking first Meowth and then the weaker Pikachu. Panicking, Ash temporarily forgets everything he knows about battle and just tries to protect Pikachu using his body as a shield. Meowth, seeing his old and new friends in trouble, quickly recovers from the surprise attack and tackles the bird to the ground, holding it down. Ash asks why the Spearow had suddenly attacked them, and Meowth explains that some wild Pokemon tend to get jealous of a Pokemon with trainers, as they get free meals, shelter, and care that wild Pokemon do not. Upon hearing this, Ash tells the Spearow that attacking a trainer and their friends doesn't give a good first impression, and that if it wants to be a part of a team, it should just ask. This surprises the Spearow, who then asks if it can join their team, which Ash agrees to. Continuing on their way, the team soon get caught in a storm and begin to run as fast as they can, trying to find some shelter, the umbrella Ash had packed being completely useless due to the wind. While they're running, they run into a red-headed girl on a bike, who notices their soaked and cold appearance and offers them a ride. Climbing to stand on the bike with Meowth and Pikachu hanging onto each of his shoulders, Ash thanks the girl for her help and finds out that her name is Misty. While they're travelling down the road, the rain eventually peters out and the group catch a glimpse of the legendary Ho-Oh. When they finally arrive at Viridian City, they quickly make their way to the Pokemon Center where they can all rest and get dry. With it already being late, Ash decides to stay the night and gives his mum and the professor a call. This time, Misty is also there and Ash introduces her as a new friend that helped him and his Pokemon get out of the rain. Delia expresses pride in her son's progress, while Professor Oak laughs that his grandson lost their bet. It is at this point that Team Rocket shows up. Now, I should clarify that Jessie and James are still in Team Rocket, as the trio had not met until after they signed up. Meowth not being there wouldn't have changed Jessie and James' enlistment. In the Pokemon Chronicles spin-off, it is shown how the original Team Rocket team met and became a team. As part of the training process, 2 human trainees and a Pokemon trainee are grouped up and need to work together to complete a mission. Here, all that changes is that James and Jessie have a different Pokemon member. I put a bunch of Pokemon that Team Rocket are seen using in the games into a randomizer and we got Porygon. So now it's Jessie, James, and Porygon. Not quite as catchy. Anyway, Team Rocket shows up with their usual song and dance. Ash gets the feeling that he's heard the name Team Rocket before, but he can't put his finger on it. Regardless, he's not about to stand by while they commit poke-napping. When the duo call Ash a twerp, Meowth pipes up saying that he's the only one that gets to call him that, shocking Jessie and James. The two immediately decide that they're going to take him, as a talking Pokemon is definitely rare. They're in for a shock, however, when Ash easily fights back with both Meowth and Pikachu, and after Misty joins in, it's all over. Telling Pikachu to use a powerful Thunderbolt, the Crooks are blasted away. This defeat convinces them that not only is Meowth special, but Pikachu must be too. The next day, Ash and Misty head off to Pewter Town together, having become rather close after everything that had happened the previous night. On their way through Viridian Forest, Ash catches a Caterpie, much to Misty's dismay. Unlike in the canon, Ash doesn't taunt Misty over her aversion, but instead tries to coax Misty into becoming friends with his new Pokemon, since they're going to be in close proximity for the foreseeable future. Meowth also pipes up, saying that if Misty isn't bothered by travelling with a talking Pokemon, then travelling with a harmless little bug shouldn't be a problem. When they stop for the night, Ash asks Misty if there's anything aside from bugs that bother her. And since the two of them are actually friends at this stage, Misty confides in him about her fear of Gyarados. Ash sympathizes and tells Misty about how he and Meowth met, saying that if it hadn't been for the wild Pokemon, that storm probably would have traumatized him. Even Meowth pipes in, giving the two 10-year-olds a few small details about his past, saying that he'd taught himself how to be more human for someone else, only to be disappointed. Ash smiles at his old friend and says that whoever that someone was, they were stupid to not see how great Meowth is. Smiling, Meowth simply curls up with Pikachu and Caterpie, saying, "Night, Dweep," which causes Ash to laugh and respond with, "Night, Loudmouth." And that, everyone, is where I'm going to be leaving this story for now. Join me next time as we get into Team Rocket's second appearance and the encounter with Samurai. I'm Rune, see you next chapter.